Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the book club, Inner Peace Pathways book club. We're talking about the tapping solution for weight loss and body confidence by Jessica Ortner. You can scan this code for free tapping meditations and information on how to get the app. I recommend it. There is a free part and there's a paid part. So you decide which one works better for you. We're going to talk today. I need to turn up my volume. There we go. Okay. Now we're all good. We're going to talk today about part 2, and it has to do kind of with this. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud becomes more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And that's when true change really happens, is when whatever it is that's bothering you becomes more difficult than the solution. And then you'll change, because a lot of us don't like change and it's hard. And so we will put it off to the very last minute until it becomes so uncomfortable that we have no choice but to change. So we're going to talk today about chapter 4, overcoming emotional eating. And these are the things that are covered in chapter 4. So, excuse me, one of the things that I did, this is actually, I'm re-recording this because I did a live and I couldn't get it to work right where you could see me in the presentation as well. So I had to keep stopping and starting the presentation so that I could do the tapping. So decided to record them again, to record this again. We also decided as a group that we wanted to slow this down and do the chapters one by one. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're just going to talk about chapter 4. In the live presentation on Wednesday, we did 4 and 5, so I'm going to record 5 as well, but it will be separate so that you can go back and watch them as you need to. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today, and let's get started. Emotional eating often feels like our own dirty little secret, the source of equal servings of pleasure and shame. And when we're under the influence of emotional eating, whether we're indulging a food craving, overeating to avoid our emotions, or constantly snacking, food becomes a toxic love affair. One moment we're smitten, soothed in the body and soul by whatever we're eating, and the next thing we know, we're uncomfortably full, trying to digest equally oversized servings of food and guilt. I don't know about you, but I really relate to this. It's difficult because you feel like when you're eating that you're getting something out of it, but then when you're done, you're kind of like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I don't know how many of you feel that way, but I certainly do. Brad Yates, who is an EFT expert, he has hundreds of EFT videos on YouTube. He's actually the first person that I ran across when I first learned about EFT. And It's not over exaggerating to say he saved my life. I was really in a bad place. And then I saw one of his videos about EFT, and I was so taken by it that I watched, I don't know, several right in a row. And then I ended up becoming a certified EFT practitioner as a result of it. But he says that self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. And I want you to think about that for a minute, but we're actually going to come back to it in the presentation farther in and talk about exactly what he means by that. But self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. So why do we overeat? When we're under the influence of emotional eating, we tend to indulge in simple carbohydrates. So things like chips and sugary things and salty things, things that are high carb foods like cookies, candy, ice cream, you name it. We want those simple sugars, and even the salty foods that we eat. So if you think, oh, I don't really eat sweets, I eat, crackers or other things, that's still simple carbohydrates, which turn to sugars in the body. So it doesn't really matter whether you're a sweet eater or a salty eater. In the body, they act very similar. So what's really interesting about the carbohydrates is that they act like drugs in the body. It helps us to feel calm and happy very quickly, but it's short-lived and only lasts for a short period of time. So if you turn to your book in page 58, let's see. This is backed up by science. So science has confirmed, so I've got my little book right here. I don't know. Oh, you can't see it because, okay, that's funny. But I am holding my book. So science has confirmed that simple carbohydrates increase the concentration of an amino acid called tryptophan. Tryptophan, which is a chemical in the brain, is a building block of serotonin, a transmitter that, when released, gives you that calm, happy feeling. In other words, part of the reason it's so difficult to put a bag of chips down or a box of sweet treats down is that while you're eating these foods, your brain is high on serotonin. The foods themselves trigger reward centers in your brain, flooding your system with the feel-good chemicals. And for a brief time, you feel amazing. It's no wonder that you struggle to stop after eating just one cookie or just one chip. During an interview that Jessica did with Brad Yates, he said something that struck her, and we've already talked about this, is that self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. And when she says when she began to think about how it applies to emotional eating, she could see exactly how true that statement felt. When we're in the moment of a serotonin-fueled bliss, emotional eating feels like a way that to nurture and to self-love and to validate ourselves. And we may think something like, I did so much today, I deserve this. I do that. Do you? I think that all the time. I reward myself with a treat after I've had an especially busy day or a stressful day. If we think back to our childhood, one of the things that kind of precipitated this and really started it was way back then. we understood as a child that if we did something good, we'd get a cookie. And in the moment, we understood that sugary treats are a way to appreciate our own goodness. And it makes perfect sense then that in adulthood, we continue to see these treats as a way to reward ourselves. So that's kind of why we overeat. Anytime that you want to share something or make a comment, please feel free to do that in the comment section. And who knows, but that if you share something, it might be something that someone else needs to hear. I just really encourage you to be careful with your words and to work real hard to say things that are positive and uplifting and not triggering for other people. This is a difficult situation for a lot of women, and one thing that we're not going to do, I'm not going to tolerate it at all, is body shaming or making fun of myself or others. So just keep that in mind as you're making comments. Food cravings, when I need it now. So succumbing to a craving is so common. It can even feel like a very real physical need. So on page 59, let's talk about it. Cravings are a real symptom that we experience in our struggle to lose weight. Jenna experienced these intense cravings for her favorite snack, which was Ritz crackers with cream cheese. And she found herself driving faster on her way home from work and anticipating being able to eat them. Once home, she dove into her favorite treat before even closing the cupboard door. And then she zoned out, eating past the point of fullness while standing in front of the kitchen counter. It was a bad habit, and she knew that she knew and realized that she needed to stop. One day, Jenna did some tapping on her craving while driving home and taking a moment to tap at every red light. Once she got home, she felt so relaxed and in control that she didn't feel the need to rush into the kitchen. Her physical craving wasn't hijacking her anymore. She later realized that what she had really been craving was a way to let go of her workday stress. And simply tapping on the symptoms, the craving had taken care of this desire to eat. This is called symptom tapping. And it's tapping on the craving itself and can often produce very fast results. So, to begin addressing the craving that you might have, let's do some tapping directly on the food that you most crave. Just by tapping on the craving itself and the feeling of desperation around needing it, you can calm the body and relieve that craving. So really think about a food that you're craving right now. Even try to intensify the craving. Give your craving a number, the SUD scale number of an intensity between 0 and 10, and begin tapping while you focus on the craving sensation. So we're going to do an example. She's got an example in the book. It starts on the bottom of page 59, and then we're going to tap on it. She uses the example of chocolate, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to say that craving, and then in your mind or out loud, you can say whatever it is that you're craving. So let's begin. We're going to start on the karate chop point. And and say, I need to move this where I can see it. Even though I really need this craving, I accept how I feel, and it's safe to relax now. Even though I need this craving, this thing that I'm craving, I accept how I feel, and it's safe to relax now. Even though I need this, whatever it is I'm craving, I accept how I feel, and I can relax now. So now we're going to move to the eyebrow point. I really need this food that I'm craving. Side of eye. I want to have it now. I have to have it now. Under the eye. This craving for whatever it is. Under the nose. This pressure I feel about this craving in my body. On the chin. I need it now. I want it now. On the collarbone, this craving for this food that I'm wanting. Under the arm, this intense craving. Top of head, I can't focus on anything else but the craving for this food. Okay, now she says to check in with yourself. Has the intensity of the food that you're craving shifted? Continue tapping until the intensity is 5 or lower. So you'll want to go back through again and keep talking about the craving if it hasn't lowered to a 5 or less. So let's pretend that we're at a 5 now, and we're going to keep tapping. Eyebrow point. I can have this food that I'm craving. Or I cannot have this food that I'm craving. Under the eye, I feel calm now. Under the nose, I feel centered now. Chin, maybe I'll have some now. Collarbone, or maybe I'll have some later. Either way, under the arm, I am in control. Top of head, and I choose what's best for me. Okay. At the end of this round of tapping, you'll want to take in a deep breath and release it and check how you feel. So in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Measure the intensity that you're feeling now. If you haven't gotten it down to below a 3, a 2, a 1, or 0, you may want to continue to tapping until you feel relief and the release of these heavy emotions. So here's the good thing to it. We have just added a new tool to our toolbox. When a craving comes and it's too much to resist, you can tap on them first thing each morning, in the moment, or at night. The calming effect will help you throughout the day. One of the things that I find so interesting about tapping is that it will last for hours after you do it. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what happens when the craving won't go away. Most food cravings are tied to emotions. And when symptoms don't calm down your cravings, that's usually a sign that your cravings are tied to deeper emotions. So, if you haven't gotten a journal, I would really encourage you to do this, or a notebook of some kind that will allow you to record your feelings and what's going on with you. But you want to ask, what am I really craving? If it's not the food that I'm really craving, what is really going on? So here's how the brain works in your system. And this is really powerful because your brain is stuck in a, when you feel these intense cravings that won't go away, you're stuck in panic mode. And in the last section, we talked about panic. So there in the chapter 3, that's about panic. At the end of it, there's a list of tapping scripts that you can go through if you're feeling panicked. But when you're stuck in the panic response, it makes it impossible to reason your way through the experience. I'm on page 61 in case you want to follow along in the book. To figure out your real source of your craving, you first need to do some tapping to quiet down the panic. You might begin by tapping on your karate chop point with a setup statement like, even though I can't get rid of this craving for cookies, I love and accept myself and I'm okay. So karate chop point here, even though I can't get rid of this craving for cookies, I love and accept myself. Where did it go? Even though I can't get rid of this craving for cookies, I love and accept myself and I'm okay. So once you've done a little bit of tapping to quiet down the initial panic, let me go back and look at the page for the panic. So that you can turn right to that page. Okay, the chapter on panic starts on page 35, but there's some tapping for it on page 44. So that's for panic that you feel when you look in the mirror, and the other one on page 45 is panic that you feel about the scale. So you can go to both of those. Also on the website that is under where this recording is on my website, www.deborahldall.com, book club. You can go there and there's a link to Jessica's website where she has some tapping scripts for quieting the critic within. So you can go there and look at those. So before we do some investigating on our own, let's discuss what's happening behind the scenes in your brain. Our subconscious mind, when we resort to emotional eating behaviors, including food cravings, the subconscious mind, which includes the almond-shaped amygdala in the brain, is charged with keeping us safe. So that is the primary job of your brain, is to keep it safe. It's designed to protect us from emotions, experiences, and memories that seem threatening. In this way, emotional eating becomes really very useful, because while we're inhaling an entire pizza or chocolate cake, we are prevented or enabled to avoid facing whatever painful experience or memory or emotion that the subconscious mind has labeled as dangerous or threatening. So sometimes it takes a little investigation in order to find out what it is that is really threatening us, what we're really panicked about, what the danger really is that the mind is trying to keep us from focusing on. Because when we can focus on whatever the real problem is, then we can fix it. So when we get clear about what we're really craving, some unmet need in the subconscious mind, using emotional eating to avoid it, we can fill that need with some other healthier habit. So that's when real and lasting change occurs, as it did for Jenna, who realized that she could use tapping to lower her stress after work instead of stuffing herself with crackers and cream cheese. From one person to the next, sometimes one day to the next, there's a broad range of emotions that the subconscious mind may be trying to avoid. So it uses eating emotionally as a convenient distraction so that we won't pay attention to what's really bothering us. One emotion we tend to underestimate is boredom. A common source of emotional eating, rather than signaling that you need a new activity or diversion, persistent boredom can be an indication that there's a lack of passion in your life. Maybe you need to develop a new hobby. And there are a lot of hobbies that actually act like meditation. So if you're interested at all in things like coloring or crocheting, both of those things are perfect examples of hobbies that work like meditation. Also, gardening is one of those too. So anything like that where you're using your hands and your mind and like all of your senses, sight, smell, hearing, all of those, as many of those as you can use, are good hobbies to have that also act as meditation so that you can calm down your emotions and not be so prone to go searching for food. Make sure that when you're going on a search for whatever emotion it is that you're feeling, look at the feelings list in chapter 2. I also have a feelings wheel for chapter 2 on my website with that you can download. There's actually quite a few downloads. There's also one that will help you figure out how much you should eat, what feeling you should have when you're full enough to avoid overeating. So take a look at that. That was something that I picked up in one of the classes that I took. So take a look at that one too. That should be really helpful. See, I think it's time to move on. So let's work on discovering the root of our emotional eating. Now that we've discussed what it is and why it's hard to stop without tapping, let's turn into little investigators. We're going to investigate and figure out what's fueling your emotional eating. So Emotional eating sometimes is a way to avoid certain feelings. When we feel like we're dying to devour the nearest treat, we're often trying to avoid a challenging emotion. That was the case for Joanne, who realized by tapping on her cravings how often she had been using food to stuff down her feelings. I think these words are very powerful because we do stuff our feelings, and the best way to handle them is to try to let them out. It wasn't just one or two specific emotions that she was trying to avoid, but actually experience feeling her emotions at all. So sometimes we can't even feel anything. Those things sent her running to the kitchen. Samantha, on the other hand, realized one day that she had been resorting to emotional eating to avoid a specific feeling. A retired teacher and aspiring author, she spent the morning working on her children's book and had made very little progress. Boy, don't I. I've been writing a book, and I really related to Samantha's story. When lunchtime rolled around, she went into her kitchen, intending to make a healthy lunch. The moment she spotted 2 boxes of cookies in her cabinet, however, she felt desperate to devour them all. As soon as her cravings hit, she began tapping while standing in her kitchen. I hope you're getting the feeling and the understanding that you can tap anywhere on nearly anything to help you calm down your brain. She had realized that there was an old fear-fueled tape that had been running through her brain. The tape was her mind's way of expressing her fear and anxiety around the book. It went something like this: I'll never get published. Who am I to write this book anyway? I'm not a real writer. And once she had tapped on her fear and anxiety around the writing, her cravings for cookies vanished, and she was able to enjoy a healthy and satisfying lunch. So spend time really paying attention, and this is where mindfulness comes in, and being present in the moment will really help you, is when you're paying attention to what you're doing and then talking to yourself and finding out, what are you feeling. The other thing is, what feeling are you trying to avoid? Take a moment to ask yourself, what feelings are you avoiding? Tap while asking yourself a question can calm your mind. So you can use a tapping script to find out what emotions that you are trying to avoid. So here's one, a tapping script to get you started. Let's start with the karate chop point. Even though I feel like I need this food to quiet this feeling down, I love and accept myself. Even though I feel like I need this food to quiet my feelings, I love and accept myself. You can even add, I'm safe. Even though I need this food to quiet this feeling, I love and accept myself, and I'm safe. Eyebrow point. Let's do it this way. Maybe you can see me better. I'm left-handed, so yeah, this is a little weird. I feel like I need to eat this now. Side of eye, I feel this feeling building up. Under the eye, I don't want to feel it. under the nose. It's too much to handle. Chin feels hopeless. So I need this food. Under the arm, it's the only way I'm going to get through my day. Top of the head, all of these feelings behind this craving. So then you're going to want to stop again and ask yourself what emotions might be behind my emotional eating. And you can even keep tapping. What emotions are behind this emotional eating? And then move through the points. I really don't know what's behind this emotional eating, but I'm open to hearing the answer. I'm seeking the answer now. What emotions am I feeling? I'm ready to hear them. I'm asking for my subconscious mind to open up and tell me, what am I feeling? That's an example of how you can tap on asking yourself the question. And then you can go around again and say out loud and tap to whatever comes up. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. You'd be amazed at what you find out. Get clear on what these are, what you're trying to avoid, what your negative thoughts are, what your emotions are. Write them down, get clear on them, and then put an intensity scale, 0 to 10 on them. Give those feelings a voice. And this is what you're really wanting to do, is to give it a voice. Give it a voice, continue to tap, and once you're at least below 5, then you want to move on to positive statements. So, eyebrow point. I feel the peace I crave. Side of eye. I feel the love I crave. Under the eye. I don't need to find all of the answers right now. Under the nose. I simply find relief in this moment. Under the chin. It's safe to feel my feelings. And it's safe to let them go. Under the arm, I can find the relaxation I crave now. And top of head, I honor my body by eating lovingly and consciously. You can even add, I'm feeding my body things that will nourish my heart, mind, and soul, and my physical body. Remember that as you do your tapping, use the tapping scripts that are provided as a prompt, and then move into your own specific answers to a question in each of the exercises. So these prompts that she provides in the book are really good for getting you started. I didn't know really how to make my own tapping prompts. So this is where a journal came in really handy for me, especially when I was going through so much trauma. I would wake up many mornings. In the early days, I would wake up crying already. Tears were running down my eyes. And before I was even consciously aware that I was awake, I was just that sad. So, and then later on, I would wake up with a panic attack already before my brain hadn't even registered being awake, and I was already feeling extreme panic. So I had a journal, and you don't have to have it this intense for this to work. You can you can use you can use this for any intensity. It doesn't have to be bad. It can be mild panic. It can be worried, sadness, anything. But first thing in the morning is usually the best time to do this. I would grab my journal and write down. I'd open it up, and on the left side of the page, I would write down all of the things that were bothering me. Whether it was worry about my day, worry about my emotions, whatever, I would write down all of those things that were upsetting me. And then on the opposite side, I would write a positive statement about my worries on the other side of the page. And this became my tapping journal. These were my setup statements to start tapping on the left side, and my crossover positive statements on the right hand side. And this became a tremendous tool for me being able to get over the trauma that I was feeling. Excuse me, I brought my water bottle, but I need to grab it real quick. That's another thing, you want to make sure you're drinking lots of water. It's really important to stay hydrated. That will actually help with a lot of your cravings. So we tapped on that. Let's continue. Emotional eating triggers. So this is another story about Margaret. She'd gained 15 pounds in 6 months, and she was feeling really defeated and depressed. She shared that she couldn't stop snacking. I work from home, she said, and I find myself constantly in the kitchen. I can't figure out why. When I asked her what happened 6 months earlier that would lead her to gain the weight, she confessed that's when I started my new job. And then she was asked, is your job stressful? Yes, she blurted out, my new boss is driving me crazy. As we began tapping on the stress that she was feeling because of her new boss, she began to see that grabbing a snack had become her way of taking a break. So she wasn't even using food necessarily for emotions, but simply a way to avoid the stress that she was feeling. She just needed to take a break. She said, I tried to be everything to everyone. Who feels like that? I feel like I'm trying to be everything to everyone. I wanted to be a good mom and a successful career woman. I wanted to take care of my husband, and there just wasn't enough time for me. So this new boss caused that pressure to just go to a whole new level. When we tapped on the events that triggered her, we began tapping while she imitated all the things her boss had said that made her panic. We continued tapping on those words until she could say them without feeling the familiar panic in her stomach. So this is one of the things that you want to make sure that you do, is you want to tap until you feel relief or release from the emotions or from the panic or the stress that you're feeling. So make sure that you're getting it all tapped out as much as you can. Remember back when I said getting a new hobby, coloring. Let's talk about coloring for a minute. I have a friend who does energy work, and she taught me an energy modality, an energy release modality that really does help. And this is also a good one to add kind of at the end to clear out any extra little bit of energy that's left. You can use it all on its own, but I like to use it as sort of like cleaning up the dust, like sweeping up the dust in the dustpan of anything that might be left over. It's called scribbling, and I'm going to put it, the link in the resources, and she has a video about it, so I'll put the video there. And there's also a book that you can purchase. I don't get anything from recommending these resources, but these were things that I found and used that were helpful to me. So I'm passing them on to you for your consideration because they worked. So I'll post the scribbling video link along with her book to help kind of scribble out whatever's left. Let's see. Oh, then we were able to bring in affirmations like, I am calm and centered in my body. And this is another good way that you can pair up a couple of different modalities, like the scribbling and the EFT. You can also pair up affirmations and EFT. So when you're saying your affirmations, tap them in. And sometimes when you're doing these affirmations, if you will just start with, even though I'm feeling whatever, and then you start with your affirmations. I am safe. I am secure. I'm at peace. I am loved. I am safe. I am secure. I am at peace. I am loved. You will find that you won't struggle, your mind won't struggle with the affirmations because you're tapping them in, and it helps you, your mind, your subconscious mind, to accept them better. So be sure and do that when you get the chance. This process will help you cement in the idea that we can hear someone's words without taking their panicked energy. So when you're tapping on things like affirmations, or even the negative things that your boss says to you, then you can tap those words in and take the energetic charge out of them, so you won't absorb that too. It's really important. So one of the things that Jessica says is that before tapping, Margaret felt that she needed to feel her boss's stress in order to be helpful at work. We don't need to take on other people's stress in order to help them. General stress is a very common trigger for emotional eating, but there are also other less expected triggers. So let's talk about those. The rebellious response. And I find this one to be personally applicable to me. The urge to rebel. So she talks about a client who told her father that she was going to be working with Jessica and learning to do the tapping, and her father's response to her was, "Oh, good, you could stand to lose some weight." So that comment left Rebecca feeling hurt and alone, like she needed to lose the weight in order to have her father's love. And he may have meant it that way, or he may not have meant it that way. It doesn't matter how he meant it or how anyone means the words that they say to you. They can be the most said with the most love and respect and trying to be helpful, but they can trigger us into a place that doesn't feel very loving, helpful, or respectful. Does that make sense? So that you don't have to blame other people for the things that they say. We don't need to assume that it was said to us in anger or unhelpfulness or to be mean. Just like we don't need to assume that they meant the best. It doesn't matter. It's how it's received in your subconscious mind. And those can all go back to triggers that happen clear back into your childhood. So don't be too hard on yourself for how something makes you feel. Your feelings are your feelings, and it doesn't matter how it was said or if they didn't mean it. So a lot of us who struggle with weight have these things said to us, and then we start rebelling. Our immediate response is to rebel, and it's kind of like, well, if I have to lose weight in order to feel loved, I'm not going to lose the weight. I had an experience very similar to this when I actually lost a lot of weight when I learned that my ex-husband was cheating on me. I had been the lowest that I had weighed in years. I was back to nearly pre-pregnancy weight, and I was feeling really good about myself. And it didn't help me feel good to know that he cheated while I was the best weight I had been in a really long time. But I also knew that wasn't the reason for the cheating. It wasn't me. So in a weird way, it was helpful. But here's the rebellious statement. I went to church one day, and somebody finally noticed that I was losing weight. And she said to me, "Oh, you're losing lots of weight. Please don't disappear on us." And I thought that was a weird thing to say. I'm not going to disappear. And I immediately went home and started eating things that I had been not eating because it was sort of a rebellion. I'm not going to disappear. Why would you say that to me? And it struck me wrong. It hit me wrong. And it hurt my feelings, especially when it was coming from a woman who was thinner than I was anyway. It was, I almost felt like she doesn't want me to look as good as she does. And anyway, I took it wrong. I took it rude. And I wish I had had tapping to help me calm that down. But that's the idea behind rebellion. So Generally, emotional eating associated with the response of rebellion comes immediately following an experience that triggers this conscious belief about something that's unfair. So, in that moment when we eat, we feel we're giving a middle finger to society that pressures us into trying to live up to the expectations that always seem to be beyond our reach. So that's kind of what's behind it. We feel like we're being treated unfair, and that the things that are expected of women in this society are not fair. When we're in rebellion, emotional eating is a way of giving ourselves that misguided self-love that we talked about earlier. So, someone says something rude to me, I'm going to rebel against it, and I'm going to make myself feel better by eating anything I want. I don't have to do this to be loved. I can eat whatever I want, and if they don't love me the way I am, then forget it. And that's kind of the whole idea behind rebellious eating. It helps us feel like we're taking back our power and taking charge of our lives when so many things feel out of control. But in truth, we're only waging more war on ourselves. So when you have this in the moment desire to eat, it's often sufficient to tap on the emotions that trigger whatever brought it up. Let's see. If this doesn't relieve the desire, that you sometimes have to go deeper and tap on the words or the event itself. So when you're feeling like you're in rebellion, like I really need to tap on this woman saying, "Don't disappear," and kind of get that out of my system. When we begin to tap on the anger behind the rebellious response, we can then sometimes remember the many passive aggressive comments that people make to us over the years. And so, again, tapping encourages you to peel back the onion. But if you are tapping on one specific thing and it brings up something else, just write it down in your journal. If you feel like you can't keep going and tapping on more things, write it down so that you have it ready to work on when you have more time or you're in a better headspace to do it. When the world doesn't live up to our expectations, we rebel against the unfairness by turning to food. And this is a quote by Jessica, and it's so true. When are you triggered to engage in emotional eating? Let's see. Think about the last time you found yourself emotionally eating. Where were you? Were you on the couch? Were you standing over a counter in the kitchen? Or were you in the car? Was it late at night when you were alone in the house? What was happening? What was going on? Get clear on the emotional eating event and then ask yourself, did something happen? Or did I have a particular feeling right before I began? That answer will give you your tapping target. Whether it's a feeling of exhaustion or frustration or something someone said or did, you can tap while giving a voice to that feeling. Again, this is like the tapping journal that I had first thing in the morning. Just start writing things down, and before long, you'll have a list of tapping targets that you can work on, and you're gonna feel like you have some place to go and something to work on. You won't have to think real hard about what it is that I need to work on next. You'll know. When surrendering, emotional eating feels like self-punishment. So sometimes when we're just deciding that we need to give up emotional eating, it can have the opposite effect. It can feel like we're depriving ourselves of something that we really want. Um, a lot of us will turn to food when we feel good or excited, um, and we want to indulge in a pleasurable experience to kind of celebrate an event. Emotional eating um, can be overeating. And so the we want to make sure that when we're eating, that we're not overeating and that we're not overindulging. And but sometimes we just want to. And so when we give up all of the reasons that we uh, indulge in overeating or emotional eating, that we're punishing ourselves. So rewards can be a way that we connect to the past. Perhaps that reminds us of a home meal that mom made, or we don't feel comfortable or happy when we're carrying excess weight. We resist the idea of giving up overeating because it's been our loyal companion. It's been our friend. It's who we've turned to for comfort and feeling safe. So when we give those up, it feels unsafe to give them up. So this is what we need to ask ourselves: what is the downside of giving up this habit? The downside question is something we'll visit many times, but one of the downsides in this particular client, whose name is Tess, food was her way of celebrating her accomplishments, including surviving another day at work, or that had left her feeling out of control. Without food, she wondered how she would treat herself to feel good. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about what the downsides are so we can tap on those. Those can become our tapping targets as well. Another thing to talk about is oh yeah, here's the question. Imagine that you could overindulge on your favorite treat for a whole week. What does that bring up for you? What do you think about when you think about eating as much as you want of your favorite treat for a whole week? What's the downside? And she has us tap on it. So, oh, sorry, that's wrong. Imagine you couldn't overindulge in your favorite treat for a whole week, that you couldn't have it. What would be the downside? So there's a tapping script on page 72. I suppose you could even tap on what the downside was if you had to eat it too much. You could do it both ways, actually. So let's start. Even though I'm unwilling to end this habit, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm unwilling to end this habit, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm unwilling to end this habit, I love and accept myself. I don't want to stop craving this food. I don't want to deprive myself. It's a way for me to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Under the nose, it's a way to praise myself. It's a way to experience pleasure. Collarbone, I don't want to give it up. I'm sick of this pressure and having to give it up. I want to rebel and do what I want. So keep tapping on all of those until you get it down to below a 5. And then the positive statements. I can do what I want. Side of I can choose to eat whatever I want. Under the eye, the calmer I feel. Under the nose, the more control I have to choose what I really want. Under the chin, I don't need the food in order to feel validated. I choose to feel validated now. Collarbone, I don't need the food in order to feel calm. I choose to feel calm now. Under the arm, it's safe for me to acknowledge what I really want. Top of the head, I choose what I want from this calm and centered space. So then you're going to breathe in and breathe out. Check in and see where you are. If you're not down to below 3, I would really encourage you to continue tapping until you get your SUD score down. So she said the point of this exercise isn't to prevent you from ever indulging in your favorite treat, but simply to pinpoint the emotions that may be causing you to overindulge. I remember watching Sesame Street with my kids, and Cookie Monster was eating all the cookies, and crumbs were flying everywhere. And he was talking about how he loved eating cookies. And then someone came up to him and said, should you eat those cookies? And he was like, yes, I want these cookies. And he just kept eating them. And they talked to him about this being a sometimes food. So I think about that a lot, that it's not an every time food, but sometimes food. And it can help you know that you're not giving up things. You're just putting them in their proper perspective. So that's what you want to do. Over time, you'll find these triggers reappearing or discover new emotional eating triggers, but don't let this discourage you. This is the biggest thing. I can't stress to you enough the peeling back the onion analogy. Just take note of those triggers and then tap through them until you clear them. You're going to keep readdressing issues until they're completely clear. So let's talk about what we're really eating. When emotional eating becomes habits that are ingrained over many years, it's hard to see all the ways in which our relationships with food are working against us. That became clear to me one evening when I was out with my friend and mentor, Ariane. I can't pronounce her name. Anyway, it's there on page 73. Best-selling author of The First 30 Days. She'd been raving about a gelato place in New York, claiming they had the best chocolate gelato in the entire city. So finally, one night, we went to enjoy a treat. After getting a serving each, we crossed the street to sit in a little plaza to enjoy our gelato. It was a beautiful summer evening, and for a moment we ate in silence. Then she said, you know, we're eating 2 different things, don't you? I looked down at her cup and I said, no, I ordered the same thing that you did. She said, we're still eating two different things. I'm eating gelato and you're eating guilt. Oh, that she must have been a really good friend, because I think that would have hurt my feelings. But she continued, my body will enjoy and process this gelato perfectly, and it will go right through me. That guilt will stick to you and you'll gain weight. And so a lot of the time, the weight isn't even about physical weight. It's about how we perceive the food that we're eating and the feelings, the emotions that are associated with it. And guilt is one of the big ones. She said, I was stunned into silence, shocked by what she had said and how true it felt. I had been eating a healthy diet for some time, but I couldn't seem to lose any weight. I suddenly realized that every evening that the food group I had forgotten to cut out was guilt and shame. So that's something that we really struggle with as women. We feel guilty and shameful about the extra weight that we carry and the foods that we enjoy that others could perceive to be things that put on weight. And as a culture, we are obsessed with food and fitness, and we're taught from a young age that carrying extra weight means that we're less than, that we're overweight because we have no self-control. Deep down, we know that it's not true. We know we're amazing, inspiring, beautiful, and talented. And yet, throughout all of our years of struggling to lose weight, we come to doubt ourselves. We come to downgrade our worth. Slowly but surely, we let our culture fixation on thinness eat away our self-confidence. And little by little, we put our own value into question, and we feel ashamed of ourselves because our bodies don't meet our cultural strict and limiting standards of beauty. We wonder if we're actually flawed, when the real problem is that we haven't yet learned how to love and respect ourselves as we are. Food is not the enemy. It's time for us to end the cycle and stop inhaling a side of shame and guilt and any other negative emotion with each and every bite. Take a moment now to think about how you feel when you eat. Ask yourself, what emotions am I eating? Do I harshly judge myself and my worth when I eat? You can tell if you do, if you'll go back. I think it's in chapter 2 with the tapping scripts for the scale and the mirror. Those made me cry. And I thought I had overcome a lot of guilt and shame, and learned to love myself better. But when I did those tapping scripts, I realized I still have some work to do. So go back and look at those. Okay, so let's start making eating a pleasurable experience. So here are a list of 5 things that her clients have said over the years that have helped them. And you may find that some of these may cause you to bristle or to be resistant to. If you find any of them that are causing you some resistance, tap on them. Number 1, before you begin eating, take 3 deep breaths and notice how you feel. Number 2, eat slowly and chew consciously. Number 3, sit down while you eat. Number 4, Add other kinds of pleasures that relax and soothe you, like beautiful dinnerware, a candle, flowers. Um, Take time to plate your food so that it looks pretty. There's lots of videos about this on Instagram and YouTube, and you can make your food look gorgeous. Take a minute to do that. 5, be present and enjoy your food without distractions. And this means like no TV. Um, Obviously, it's good to eat with other people, but be present while you're doing it. Get off your phone, get off your TV, and be in the moment with your food. So let's see. I think this is the end on page. This is the end of chapter 4. So we're going to stop here and do chapter 5 next, and we'll see you in the next video. Take as long as you need to go through each one of these. Like if you need extra time and you need to slow it down so that you can absorb them, then please do. It's always a good thing. So I'm going to say until next time, and we'll see you in the next video.